Hello again, Kingston Town Administrator Keith Hickey with the latest edition of This Week in Kingston for the week ending October 5th, 2024. Hopefully everybody's enjoying the nice fall weather. A lot of things happening in town to make you aware of um, and get you up to speed. First, just to give up an update on the Main Street water project. The water department is hoping that October 11th or so, the contractor will be done with their work. They'll be coming back to more properly uh, pave the area that they've disturbed for the winter, so it's not nearly as rough a ride as it is right now. So appreciate everybody's patience with having to deal with the traffic, the detours, and then the bumpy the pavement that's been left there. Been a long summer for that project. Be good to get that out of the way. Hopefully that'll be happening in the next, like I said, week as far as construction goes, and then probably another day or so to do the final coat of pavement for the winter. They'll come back in the spring and do a more permanent patch on the road later next spring. But that'll take care of that project. Moving forward, there's a lot of things happening in town I want to make you aware of. The Board of Selectmen will be having a Board of Selectmen meeting next week. A lot of things on the agenda to make people aware of. We had a resignation on the Board of Assessors about a month or so ago. We've been advertising to fill that position. At this point, as of Thursday, we have one person who's interested in filling the open Board of Assessor position until the May 2025 town meeting and elections. That person will be interviewed on Tuesday evening by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Assessors. Kingston's Fire Chief Mark Douglas will come in and give them a quarterly update on the activities within the fire department. One of the big topics on the agenda that's been discussed at the last meeting and will be discussed again next week is the continued winter maintenance of unaccepted roads in the town. Right now, we have about 14 roads that, because of the condition of the roads, there's a concern by streets, trees, and parks that either town equipment or equipment of hired plow drivers could damage their vehicles and their equipment by plowing those roads or sections of those roads in its current condition. We've had a number of people who live on those roads. Some of those roads make those repairs already. Last I knew, a couple of days ago, there were 5 or 6 roads that will come off that list and be plowed in the fall. There are some improvements that probably can't be done sometime this fall. And we're hoping that other roads will be a little more proactive and get some of the work done that needs to be done to make the roads safe to be plowed without risking damage to the equipment. The Board of Selectmen will be discussing that again on Tuesday night, and ideally making a final decision on what they're going to do moving forward, whether or not they're going to give some leeway to some or all the roads that need to have some improvements made to them to have them be plowable. So I expect a decent number of people to show up and testify and share their concerns and ultimately have that this could be a potentially fairly long agenda item. Once we finish up with that, we'll move forward. There'll be an annual report from Old Colony Planning Council. The executive director of Old Colony Planning will come in and give their annual report, something that they need to do. There's also a discussion on proposing to narrow a portion of Main Street, the travel lanes on Main Street, by a foot in each direction. That has been reviewed and suggested by our traffic engineer. They are suggesting that a complete study of Main Street be done because there's a lot of things that could and should be changed or modified in the road profile. trying to narrow the lanes, and you'll probably hear the term road diet discussed next week. That's the acronym I guess people are using now for that. The thought behind that was to try to narrow down the road, make people feel like they're on a bit of a narrower travel area, and ultimately potentially slow down a little bit. So, not sure if the board wants to do it or not. There's been a request to do something like that, so we did the homework to get that proposal in front of the board. The cost to do the restriping is about $5,700. There isn't a specific expectation on whether or not things will slow down, but they're thinking that the traffic will average a speed reduction of between 2 and 4 miles an hour on that stretch of roadway. So we'll see what the board wants to do with that, and they'll make a decision and move on. Moving forward from there, we have a presentation from a public relations firm, John Guilfoyle Public Relations. That firm has been working with a lot of different communities across the state to help those communities provide information from town departments, town boards, and commissions to the public via social media, Facebook, website posts, things of that nature. The idea with it is, again, to try to be provide more information in a more consistent basis to the people who are interested in reading that information. So there'll be a presentation and discussion about that. The cost of having this firm do this for us is $1,500 a month. They're asking for a 1-year guarantee. So again, it's an opportunity to expand and improve on the information that we get out to the viewers and the readers of Town of Kingston information. There is a cost to do that, and the board can decide whether or not they think it's worth the investment. Department heads and I feel it's a nice opportunity to, again, try to provide more and more information, hoping that the board can consider that and make whatever decision they want to make. We're also finally talking about a school zone at the Silver Lake Middle and High School. We're closing the town meeting warrant, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. There are a handful of articles for that. And then establishing a working group to have that working group come up with some ideas and review the options available. With the retirement of our streets and parks superintendent, it's an opportunity to look at the organizational structure. Should there be a public works department? Could there be a public works department? And what are the options of that? And what would that look like? What roles would different boards and commissions and employees play in that? So hopefully set up a working group where we can bring a recommendation back to the Board of Selectmen in the next couple of months, and we can move forward from there. Beyond that, we've got some donations, which are very much appreciated to the Council on Aging that we'll accept, and that's really the bulk of the agenda. So I mentioned to everybody that the town meeting warrant will close. Right now, we've got, and it doesn't close until Tuesday. We've got about 13 articles. There's a couple of big things that people will have to take into consideration. The first article, and the one that might have the most debate with it, will be the establishment of an MBTA zoning district. You've heard me talk about that. Town planner Valerie Massard and I have taped a TV show. We'll be taping another one in the next couple of weeks, trying to make people aware of what this means, why it has to be done, or why it has to be considered, at least. Not doesn't have to be done. What the ramifications are if the town votes it down, where the district is, and what the initial impacts, if any, may be. So that will be the first article on the town meeting warrant. We've got some information on our website if people are interested in starting, to want to get themselves up to speed on what it really means. There are dozens of communities across the state who are impacted by this. Many of those have already voted. Most have voted yes. Some have voted no. And again, it's what Valerie and I are going to try to present the factual information to you, the voter, and you will then decide whether or not you think it's worthwhile to be approved or not in Kingston. We also have a request that's going to be, we believe at this point, $900,000 from the water department for costs associated with the development of a new well for the property. There's been a lot of discussion over the last several years about trying to purchase and drill a new well on the former Kelleher property. The water department has been able to secure that property. They own it now. We'd like to they're proposing to do the design work, the test wells, and things of that nature over the next year or so. The estimated cost of doing that's about $900,000. So they're seeking those funds. We're looking to transfer another $25,256 to the employee liability reserve fund. That fund has been established and is funded on an annual basis at town meeting for the payout of employees who are owed vacation time, and in some cases for the longer term employees, there's a portion of their sick leave. We have a handful of employees that are left, long-term employees that are left that are eligible to get their sick leave buyout. We're having a couple of those employees leave us this fiscal year. So we need an additional $25,000. That will come from prior year unexpended articles. We'll look to repurpose those articles in the amount of $25,256 to fund that, so there'll be no direct impact to the taxpayer. We also have a $1.376 million capital request. The majority of that capital request is for a new fire engine. Chief Douglas has shared with the board of selectmen and I that the delivery time now for a new fire truck is over 1,100 days from the day you order, which is up about between 6 and 12 months from 6 months ago. So typically this request would come forward as part of the fiscal 26 capital requests. Because the timeline has been extended as long as it has, the fire chief is suggesting or recommending that we seek funding authorization for it now, and order that so we can get that on order. That would allow us to save 3 or 4%, I believe it is, on the acquisition price, because we're buying it before the next increase in pricing that will be effective January 1st. We have $400,000 that was received by the town a number of years ago for the acquisition of the ladder truck that we bought. We leased that ladder truck. The thought was the last 2 years of those lease payments would be paid with that $400,000. But because that lease interest amount is about 2%, far less than what we could pay for interest now, we want to apply that $400 to this particular fire engine, reducing the net cost to acquire this to between $600,000 and $700,000, which we'll be discussing on the best way to finance the balance of that, whether we pay cash for some of it and then lease the balance. The other request for this is $60,000 for new docks at the Ardina that will be paid for completely by the Waterways Fund. There's a new vehicle for the police department. The police department is proposing in some of their funding to acquire a comfort dog. The comfort dog, there is not an available vehicle to be retrofitted for the comfort dog, so there's a request of $75,000 by the police chief to acquire a vehicle for the police officer who would be responsible for that comfort dog. And then moving forward, there's a number of articles to amend different bylaws that we're asking the public to consider. Nothing, I don't think, that's significant. We're looking to transfer some town-owned land to have it be under conservation. Reduce the waterfront committee from 7 to 5 members because they're having a tough time getting a quorum. Amend some the traffic code, which probably won't even need to be on the town meeting warrant. It's probably something the Board of Selectmen can do, but we're trying to verify that. Change the maximum retirement age for special police officers to 70 years old. So a lot of bylaw stuff for the majority of it, but again, big items, MBTA zoning, the capital items, and the need to fund the preliminary work for a new well at for the water department. So important to try to be there if you can. The meeting is going to be on as it always is for a special town meeting on a Tuesday night. It's Tuesday night, February 19th. So it's at the intermediate school, as the town meetings have been. If you're able to come, love to have you there. Voice some opinions on a number of different things that are important to Kingston. We'll be taping TV shows to go through the warrant in more detail with the moderator, like we've been doing the last couple of years. And as I mentioned earlier, Valerie Massard, our planner, and I will tape a TV show in the near future for the MBTA zoning. So with that, I want to thank everybody very much for watching. A little longer episode this week. Sorry to be so wordy. But try to get this information out to you as best I can. So thanks very much for watching. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next week.